Section 4 of Captain Billy's Whiz Bang, Volume 1, Number 11, August 1920. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Captain Billy's Whiz Bang, Volume 1, Number 11, August 1920, by W. H. Fawcett. Formation of Women, and They Answered Him. Ancient mythology and folklore contain innumerable stories of the creation of the world and of man. Most of them have this in common, that they relate that, when it came to the creation of woman, the being who had the task at hand experienced immense difficulties. According to a supposed legend, for instance, this is the origin of woman. Twashtri, the god Vulcan of the Hindu mythology, created the world. But on his commencing to create woman, he discovered that for man he had exhausted all his creative materials, and that not one element had been left. This, of course, greatly perplexed Twashtri, and caused him to fall into a profound meditation. When he arose from it, he proceeded as follows. He took the roundness of the moon, the undulating curve of the serpent, the graceful twist of the creeping plant, the light shivering of the grass blade and the slenderness of the willow, the velvet of the flowers, the lightness of the feather, the gentle gaze of the doe, the frolicsomeness of the dancing sunbeam, the tears of the cloud, the inconsistency of the wind, the timidity of the hare, the vanity of the peacock, the hardness of the diamond, the cruelty of the tiger, the chill of the snow, the cackling of the parrot, the cooing of the turtle dove. All these he mixed together and formed a woman. This is widely accepted as an ancient Hindu legend, and nobody would suffer very much for continuing to believe such to be the case. But a gentleman, in answer to a query the other day, completely destroys the foundations for this belief. He says the legend of the creation of a woman is the creation in English of an English mind. Its author is F. W. Bain, and it is to be found in his charming book, A Digit of the Moon. They answered him. He had only $10 left and thought he would have a tour on the railway. So he hied himself to a big ticket office where there was a host of booking clerks and inquired, "Here, can I go to Halifax for $10? "No," answered the booking clerk. "Well, can I have a return to Montreal?" "No," replied the clerk again. "Well, where can I go for $10? Then, in a chorus, they all answered him. End of Section 4.
Section 5 of Captain Billy's Whiz Bang, Volume 1, Number 11, August 1920. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Phil Shempf. Captain Billy's Whiz Bang, Volume 1, Number 11, August 1920. By W. H. Fawcett. Havermeyer and Harriet, by Nemesis. It is the old story. Sporty married man, trustful or maybe designing girl, wool over her optics, girl finally gets wise. Recriminations, breach of promise suit, and Hector Havermeyer and Harriet Hearn comprise the alliterative couple in the calcium effulgence this time. Havermeyer is the scion of the sugar magnate, one of whose stunts was to ruin a competitor by bribing a workman in the rival plant to run a pipe from the syrup tank to the river and waste 50 or 100 barrels a day. We mention this to show that Hector did not inherit a high standard of principle or regard for the rights of others. Harriet eked out her truce with profiteering landlords and dry goods stores by digging muck from under the claws of such customers as presented themselves for the purpose. Her modest shingles swung in a barber shop in the Grand Central Station, Graftopolis on the Harlem, generally known as New York. Hector came, he saw, well, you can guess the rest. Of course he proposed marriage, and of course Harriet sprung the old song and dance about it being so sudden. But when Hector offered as a lagniappe to blow her to a whole slew of diamonds, a Kolinsky cape, and a trip south, his suddenness compared to hers as she Pisa-towered on his Kauchek celluloid, mooning, "Hector, I am thine," was even as Congress controlling the trusts to a terrier-cudel with a turpentine enema. The fair Harriet was soon installed in a $7 a day suite at a no-questions-asked hotel. Manicurists seldom can afford such things out of their own earnings, and we will give our readers 3 guesses as to who signed the checks for the rent. As long as Hector paid, he naturally was entitled to call as often as he darn pleased, which was about once a day, and then some. Not contented with that, he would telephone so often to her at her place of business that her barber employer ultimatumed that she must either cut it out or take the gate. Hector also sent flowers and candy galore. His progenitor had acquired coin in the manner quoted above, a manner both easy and honorable, and passed it on to Hector to blow. Hector also pined for special messages from his Dulcinea del Toboso, and would employ the red-capped porters at the station to go to her and beseech for him a missive of love to ease his near-ruptured cardiac. The strange part of it all is that at first Hector was too bashful to go like an avuncular just arrived from Canajoharie, and have Harriet extract the Graphopolis real estate and microbes from the nether side of his hive-scratchers. Instead, he sought the services of a New York Central detective as his John Alden, the fair Harriet states. But she fell for the detective-presented proposition and consented to the introduction. The promise of marriage, which Harriet claims was made, might have been either the last resort of a man dealing with a near Pamela and acute minx combined, or else a gratuitous piece of calorified atmosphere. But as she had to know some day that he could not keep his word without committing bigamy, Hector preferred that it should be from him, rather than from his vindictive, investigating storm and strife, or the serpentine lollipop liquor of Mrs. Grundy. Having had preliminary practice in another way, he screwed up his courage and broke the news. Although he let her down easy with the hoary classic bucolic cataplasm about his wife not understanding him, there would soon be a divorce, and then his Harriet would be it. That was all Harriet wanted to hear. She flew the $7 a day coupe whose manager, as there were several times $7 of arrears, was so unkind as to retain her powder rag, her toothbrush, and other feminine impedimenta which we forbear to catalogue. Harriet went back to finding her own rent money, but nevertheless she did not break with her Hector. Instead she kept hectoring him with special delivery letters and telegrams, ditto his wife, although she charges that in the latter case Hector had fixed all the apartment-house help so that none of her retaliatory revelations would strike home. She says, too, that her Lothario had the St. Vitus dance even when she was not in proximity to him. Seeing that he had taken her all and given her in return nothing but candy, flowers, and broken promises, she is going to try very hard to make him pay, and has brought suit for $100,000. She exults that she did not sell or give away all her old clothes, and resigned her position, as he urged her to do, and says she would not be in a Gehenna of a fix if she had. Hector claims that Harriet, like himself, is married to somebody else, a certain Gary Hearn being the man. But Harriet denies the allegation and defies the alligator. Hector lives with his wife at 375 Park Avenue, New York. He seems to take it all as a joke, but his Harriet evidently does not. She alleges that he wooed and won her under the name of Palmer, and also that he ungallantly refuses to pay the rest of the rent so she can get her needful belongings out of Hawk. And to make matters worse, he will not see her any more, but she protests her undying love for him, in spite of the way he has wounded her poor, tender little feelings, which ought to be easy for her, seeing the size of his saccharine bankroll. Heads she wins, tails she loses. Harriet figures she stands to get a slice of it if he doesn't make good about divorcing his wife and marrying her. Or, in the other event, she will have the spending of most of it anyhow. So why shouldn't modest little Harriet sue? And Echo answers why. The new supper menu. No more liquid glances. No more pretty speeches. No more stewed live lobsters. No more pickled peaches. End of section 5.
Section 6 of Captain Billy's Whiz-Bang, Volume 1, Number 11, August 1920. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Captain Billy's Whiz-Bang, Volume 1, Number 11, August 1920, by W. H. Fawcett. Questions and Answers. Dear Captain Billy, how will I head a story about a prominent Boston society girl marrying a Providence socialist? Cub reporter. Just say, Plymouth Rock chicken marries Rhode Island red. Old Wheezy Billy, my landlord has raised my rent because I have a case of whiskey in my apartments. Now, I don't like to move and I don't like to pay rent, and then again, it is against the law to move the whiskey. So, what the hell should I do? Oberst. Your case has undoubtedly been disposed of by this time. Dear Bill, to settle a dispute, please tell me what disease is caused from the microbe of a kiss. Junebug. Palpitation of the heart. Dear Bill, the ocean side seems so different this year. Why does it seem to make me feel so blue? Flo Waters. I do not know, Flo, unless it's the wind blowing the froth over the bar that reminds you of olden days. Dear Captain Billy, why won't they allow Army aviators to take up women passengers in the airplanes? May Wheat. I am told that too many of the pilots went blind while looping the loop. Dear Editor, can you give me the technical name for snoring? Al Maglook. Sheet music. Dear Billy, don't you think the short skirts the girls are wearing make us look lots shorter? Daisy Fields. Yes, Daisy, but they make us men look lots longer. So what's the difference? Dear Billy, as you were in the United States Army during the recent war, I wish you would inform me as to the principal ailments the boys got from abroad. Prophylactic Pete. I am unable to answer your question, Peter, but I have referred it to Private Iodine Ike of the Cotton Batting Corps. Dear Captain Billy, I am lame, halt, nearly blind, and 85 years old. What job do you think I should work at? R.J. Would suggest you apply for the position of gardener in a young woman's seminary. Dear Cap, I've just composed a song for my 1920-21 Record Breaker show entitled The Stockyards Rag. I'm enclosing a copy to get your opinion of it. Jack Reed, the Information Kid. Dear Jack, the words of your song are all right, but I don't like the air. It just doesn't smell right. Dear Captain Billy, what is your opinion of regulated public dance halls, and do you believe there is a cure for the alleged dance evil? Ichabod Iliad. I say, on with the dance. Let joy be unconfined. There is gladness unabated since Maggie Murphy dined. Did you, my dear Ichabod, ever see a tea kettle bubble, dance, sing, and boil her over? Well, that was the effect. The pep, fire, and energy underneath it was the cause. You can't put out the fire by removing the tea kettle to a cooler spot. Therefore, you can't cure evil thinking by doing away with dancing. Fire, pep, energy is the natural results we get from the disgusting habit we have of eating. Consequently, if we remove the cause, which is eating, evil thinking or dancing, which is the effect, will cure themselves. Dear editor, please help me. I was out with a young lady for the first time when she saw some jewelry. She said she wished to buy some, but had left her pocketbook at home. What should I have done? Troubled Tom. You should have lent the lady 5 cents to go home and get her pocketbook. Always be a gentleman. Dear Billy, is it essential that a movie vamp have dark hair and eyes? Blondie. No, Blondie, you still have a chance. A vamp doesn't have to have dark hair and eyes. I know lots of blonde ones with big blue eyes and several red-headed ones. Dear Whizbang, is there any truth in the rumor that Douglas Fairbanks is already considering getting a divorce from Mary Pickford? I'm a Darby. I don't believe it's true, but only an idle rumor gathered from the story that Doug was peeved because Mary talked in her sleep and cried out the name of her first husband too often. Dear Editor Whizbang, I am a civics instructor at a high school, am 45 years of age, and act like any spry young man. I am deeply infatuated with a pretty young school secretary. I went with her a few months this year, and then for a spell lost my liking for her. Now, for some reason or other, I am again in love with her, but am afraid to make any advances to her because she has recently purchased a car, and I am afraid people will think that there is method to my madness. Remember that I love her, and then tell me what to do. Ad Noid. You're not acting like any spry young man if you're withholding your declaration of love for fear of what people would think. Tell her, and don't lose any time about it. End of Section 6. Section 3 of Captain Billy's Whizbang, Volume 1, Number 11, August 1920. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Captain Billy's Whizbang, Volume 1, Number 11, August 1920, by W.H. Fawcett. Bold Bad Willie, from the Imperial Review. The teacher was explaining to her class the difference between concrete and abstract. Concrete, she said, is that which can be seen. Abstract, that which cannot be seen. Now, Willie, give me an example of the concrete. My pants, said Willie. Good, said the teacher. Now, give me an example of the abstract. Yours, replied Willie. Anticipation, an olive drab uniform. Realization, an olive drab uniform. Anticipation, that fits as snugly as a glove. Realization, made to fit a fat man. Anticipation, bringing admiring glances from the girls. Realization, bringing smiles and giggles from the girls. Anticipation, parades in which he would proudly march. Realization, KP at which he toiled and sweat. Anticipation, cheered and applauded by the patriotic crowds. Realization, cursed and reviled by the army cooks. Anticipation, honors won on the battlefields of France. Realization, tortures endured in the SOS in France. Anticipation, for heroic deeds in action. Realization, from battling sergeants, MPs, Louis. Anticipation, promotion and bars for following duty's call. Realization, demotion in the brig for duty dodging. Anticipation, and medals pinned upon his manly chest for valor. Realization, cooties biting and tickling his manly chest. Anticipation, his triumphant return home, a hero. Realization, his return home, a doughboy who didn't get to the front. Anticipation, worshipped by the townfolks. Realization, greeted warmly, nevertheless, by the townfolks. Anticipation, his old job back with increased pay. Realization, his old job held down by a slacker. Anticipation, the girl he left behind for his wife. Realization, the girl he left behind, the slacker's wife. Anticipation, installed in a cute little cottage built for two. Realization, installed in a cute little cottage with a pair of twins. H.A. Perel. Mary had a little ruffle. I discovered it by chance. Just a dainty little ruffle on the bottom of her underskirt. Sayings of the famous. Bilious plutocrat. Rave on, Red Raven, you shall not split tonight. End of section 3.